Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Question a Day. We'll be right back right after a short intro. Hey, everyone, and welcome to Paranormal Question of the Day. We do live podcasts with live guests, live paranormal investigations as well. We do product reviews, so sit back, enjoy the channel, get popcorn, get a soda, and I'll see you soon. And we are back. I hope everybody's having a good Monday. It's start of the work week. You know how all that goes. And so tonight's guest, we have Mr. Joe Diamond with us, a returning guest. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Thank you for having me, and you don't have to call me Mr. Joe Diamond. That's my dad. Just Mr. Diamond is fine. No, I'm kidding. No, it's fine. It is funny how people to very few people that I've known for like 20 plus years. Very few people just call me Joe. It's always, hey, Joe Diamond. It's always like the full first and last name. And that was the case ever since I was a teenager and started working and performing and stuff. So it's good because again, Joe is so common and so all together, the Mister is not needed.
All right.
I'm going to double check on YouTube as well. I want to follow along in case there's anyone chatting or asking any questions or anything like that.
All right.
Too. So I'll be active in that for the live listeners.
Okay. We are on BB3 TV for Facebook. We're on Paranormal Brews YouTube channel, and we're also on MGS Paranormal's YouTube channel. And we have Jim. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Welcome. So, we got people piling in already.
Good.
There's Mr. Joe. Sorry.
Yep. Oh no, yeah. No,
hey, Joe.
That's fine. Hello, I'm excited to be here. I'm getting more used because again, everyone has a different setup, but I love when it's live streaming like this on StreamYard through YouTube and everything because I can then see the chat and interact with people back and such and that's the thing too. If people are listening or watching after the fact too, I'm at Joe Diamond Live on Instagram. I'm very active on there, and Joe at JoeDiamondLive.com. So if anyone does have any questions about anything we talk about, feel free to reach out to me. It is my busy season. Might not get back to you right away, but that is the most likely place it won't end up in like a weird 3 levels deep spam folder put there by Mark Zuckerberg. We'll
I hear you there. So, hey, Joe. So how's it been going in a long time? It's been a while. I'd say it's been about maybe a year and a half since I've had you on.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So this last year I had the biggest. I've done some TV in the past, but as just very very basic stuff for documentaries or putting together stuff for news pieces where I was, one of the people involved with that or something. But I did my biggest thing ever, which was I was on the TV show Penn and Teller Fool Us this last year. We filmed it last August of 2023, and it finally aired February 2nd of 2024. And you can't talk about it before it airs. You got to keep it a secret and everything. So it's kind of weird. Like this thing I worked on last year, I can now finally talk about. But it's great, and I was really honored to be on the show and I'd been trying to get on for a long time because I mean Penn and Teller are very openly skeptical, and they're very they don't have a lot of psychic entertainers or mind readers or even mentalists on the show. Mm-hmm. So getting on the show as a performer of that nature already I was super proud of, but being able to then, of course, meet Brooke Burke, who I've had the biggest crush on ever since I was 12, like the same age I probably saw Penn and Teller probably, and she was great, and she is into all this stuff. So she asked me to read her palm on camera and everything. So That was great. And even Penn and Teller, I won't spoil the end of the video for anyone who hasn't watched it, uh, but I will say that they said this was their favorite kind of mentalism and mind reading because it actually takes a real amount of mental work and mental effort. And I was just super proud of that. I felt after working on something for so long and it coming together in all the right ways, that was really wonderful. And I've been very lucky with the amount of people who I know in my life or I haven't seen in a while uh, who have been congratulating me and coming to see shows. And also, it's opened me up to a whole new audience, which is kind of cool. For the longest time, uh, kind of I was kind of in a double niche in that I was too paranormal and metaphysical for the magicians who all want to be Harry Houdini and debunk all paranormal stuff. And I was too show busy and magic-y for like the more metaphysical types and the paranormal types even. And I think now because of where the culture is in general and where both these areas are, and I've just kind of been around long enough,
Right,
like
right.
I've just not stopped ringing my bell that eventually people have started to see my shows and they get it, and I'm not playing to as much of a niche audience anymore. I've actually had people say uh, that, oh, we had heard about you or we had seen an ad or heard you on the radio or whatever, saw you on the news, but we didn't think this would be up our alley, But then we saw you on Fool Us, or we saw, someone said they saw your show and it wasn't, you know, you weren't summoning the devil or something like that. I don't know what people think they're getting into when they
Yeah.
come see me, but at the same time, I am not shy about saying I am a mind reader. I am performing in a haunted location, and normally those shows are, on Halloween or Friday the 13th or whatever. So, I mean, there's no point in being shy about those things. But
Right.
some people just hear that and think, oh, well, that's not my thing. And that's the thing with Halloween too, and in general as well. I think so many people, and I think the paranormal community in general has really helped the paranormal shows and everything else, because I think for the longest time, Halloween or all this type of stuff was seen as like you have to be very, very like fun for kids
Hmm.
or zombie clowns with chainsaws and go over the top for the teenagers. And
Right.
so I feel like thanks to the paranormal community, paranormal shows, and just, the culture in general, people understand like, oh, those are two extremes. There's a lot of stuff in the middle. History tours have gone up, paranormal tours,
Oh yeah.
oddly related, and I find a lot of overlap in our weird Venn diagram is escape rooms. Like people
Hmm.
want to experience something. Even if
Right.
they're super skeptical, they're more likely to go on a paranormal tour because they, like my wife and I will go on them, and she likes to hear about the history. She is
Hmm.
more on the skeptical side of some stuff, which is fun. I
Right.
get to open her eyes a little bit, and she gets to ground me, and that works out really well. But again, all that, like I want to hopefully get scared. I want to hopefully see something, and she wants to know. So what year was this building built? She's a history science double major, so I think people are understanding that there's more to a lot of these types of experiences, whether it's going on a paranormal investigation or just a tour, or coming to see a mind reader, or going to a psychic, or booking a psychic for a house party or something. Like there's I think a much bigger desire for something a little unconventional, something that's high touch rather than high tech, especially after the lockdown when we were all separated.
Hmm.
People are more apt to try something that's interactive and in a three-dimensional space that they can be a part of and again interact with, and not even more so than, being in a movie theater or a play where they're just sitting back and watching passively. These are things that they can actually take part in themselves.
Right, right. And that's a good explanation of a lot of stuff that's, with the paranormal and the psychic and the mind work and all
Hmm.
that stuff. And you're right. There's a lot of people who do take this as if like, oh, well, we're summoning the devil or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
they really don't grasp the idea until they actually get involved and then actually say, oh, well, this is
Yeah.
like nothing like I totally what I thought it was going to be like.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
it is
Yep.
making its full circle in that aspect of things. It's the older generation that still needs a little more work on that stuff. And I'm talking like, like
Yeah.
50s and 60s and stuff like that
Sure.
generation. But it is. Hey, Lori. And, a little
Yeah,
bit.
murder mysteries. Lori just said that about murder mysteries. I saw
Yeah.
it come up on the screen. Yeah, absolutely. Like my wife and I love murder mystery stories. We love we binged all of Agatha Christie's Poirot and the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes on the BBC, or not BBC, BritBox streaming service. So yeah, we love that, and she likes the wanting to know the mystery, and I like experiencing the mystery and going
Hmm.
along and finding the clues along with each other. And a lot of so yeah, so and I think people understand too, like you can and this is the great thing too with again a mind reading show or a ghost tour or anything like that. Um, you there's no rules in how you're supposed to enjoy it.
Hmm.
You know, like with other than just don't be a jerk, which is just a life rule at that point. But if you come in, like, just for example, I'm not big into like a lot of the technology with like ghost hunting equipment and stuff, even though I grew up loving Ghostbusters and all that. Again, I like the less tech filled stuff. I like the pendulums and spirit bottles and that kind of stuff. But some people get really into the tech, and that's awesome.
That would
Like
be me.
there's yep, exactly. And so and again, I find there's a big overlap. I keep playing with this as an article idea or an essay or a book or something about the overlaps of, like, for lack of a better term, uh, performance magic and horror, or particularly horror movies.
Hmm.
Because performance magic covers hypnosis, magic tricks, mentalism. We start getting to the fringes of the, where it's like psychic entertainment is, and paranormal tours and all that. It's it gets a little muddy when you get further out from there. But even when you stay to the close aspect of it, there really is a feeling of, again, wanting to be a part of something, and and going for a very specific emotional experience. You can laugh for a lot of reasons. You can laugh because you're uncomfortable. It doesn't necessarily mean what you thought was funny.
Hmm.
Um, you also, uh, you can also, and that's the other thing too. You can also, Steve Martin talked about this, where you cannot laugh and still think something's hilarious. You can watch a performer, as long as you have a good character and point of view, people can still leave and go, they're really funny. He's really funny. Like, people don't roll in the aisles at David Sedaris, but almost all of his readers are like, oh, he's really funny. He's very funny. But with horror and what I'll just say mystery, which I feel like, again, hypnosis, magic, all that other stuff, it's going for a very specific thing. And for me, it all comes down to the car ride home.
Hmm.
If you're in the car ride home and you're not going, but she was on a flat table and he cut her in half, and there's nothing underneath, and we saw her, and I mean, and if you're not in the car ride home from a horror movie and you don't double check your doors are locked at a red light or check the back seat or something like that, arguably it has failed. It has,
Right.
those art forms, and that's the other reason why I'm saying art forms too. And again, where I think paranormal investigation and tours and such overlap with that, because it does get people into this stuff, but it gives
Yeah.
them that kind of in person experience. but I feel that is different from when a team on their own goes and does their own tours. I hope
Yeah.
I'm making sense there.
No, that makes
So,
sense.
again, I do this purely as an artist. We do the tours, and I stay honest with those. I work to make sure I get all the history right and everything else. But that is just one aspect of the greater pie for me. Like for me, I'm even more into like the research than like the actual like investigating a space
Hmm.
uh, mindset. But yeah, but just going back real quick um, to horror and performance magic, it there's so many. I mean, a lot of people say they don't like them for the similar reasons too, like oh, it freaks me out, or or it's of the
Too
devil.
gory.
That happens a lot too. Yeah, and also people in horror movies like Tom Savini. He called his book on special effects Grand Illusions because he said he saw his special effects as magic tricks, and it's kind of
Right.
funny how many magic principles are used uh in horror films, but also just
Hmm.
to like tell a story and like finding out where to compromise. Like that's the biggest thing for me. Like right now, you know, I've done tours in the Opera House before. I've done tours in other places. The tour, like I'm not that is out of my head. I'm like, yep, that's fine, that's good. I'm ironically more concerned about, and not even concerned, but just working on more and thinking about more is the show itself. Because we're doing a show and a tour on October 25th, the Friday before Halloween. Then Halloween night, we're doing these tours at the Woodstock Opera House. Which, by the way, if I didn't mention, joedivinlive.com/Halloween, if anyone's in the Midwest and wants to find out more information about either of these. But the show on Friday night, I it's 411 people if we sell it out, and I have sold out a three out of my four performances there so far.
Nice.
One of those numbers, and I'm very thankful for that. Uh, but that's still like even if we only get a quarter of that, that's still 100 people all in a room, and that's harder to evoke that feeling the more people there are. Like when it's
Hmm.
20 people, I've got it, and I've done a lot of stage work. I've been on stage since I was again quite young, doing school plays and more traditional magic when I started out, but giving people that shiver down their spine, that wait, what the heck is happening, is a lot harder. It gets harder the more and more people there are. Now, I
Yep.
do have a lot of material or a lot of parts of my show that involve everyone, and people know they're not, because that's the other thing. It's harder to be more skeptical when it's not you. So, like when it's 20 people, you're in it. You're part of it one way or another.
Right.
So finding ways to make everyone in the audience all part of the show uh, while giving them, my goal is to give everyone who comes to the show the best Halloween ever. And I'm really happy with how it went last year, but, and we can talk a little bit about last year, but the thing I did for the end of the show last year, if you know what's coming, it does not work. It
Hmm.
it truly did not. So I can't do any of that again. So this year we're doing an Orson Welles seance. Orson That was the first stage Orson Welles ever performed at. And if anyone doesn't know this, but if you've seen the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, the tower he jumps out of at one point, that's the Woodstock Opera House. That's where I'll be performing October 25th and Halloween night. And doing this on the first stage you ever performed on, it's I want to be respectful. I want to, really, be there, be present, be open to what can happen, and use everything I've learned as a storyteller to leave it open for things to happen. But I also have to write a story for if nothing happens. And I, again, upside, I have a lot of experience of that with mind reading, because yeah, there are nights where I say to the person, you're thinking of your first crush and it was Donald, and they go, no, it was my first boyfriend and it was Daniel. And and again, smaller audiences, people go, oh, that's why he got that.
Hmm.
On a big stage with lights, and I have a microphone and there's a balcony. that takes a much bigger hit. So
Right.
I have to write in, some jokes, or at least be prepared and be in the moment. I use a lot of improv and again the more theatrical shows, but being able to also give people that feeling. What
Mhm.
helps with it too is there's an intermission. So the first half can be my usual show, and then I can admit, like, hey, in the second half, we're gonna see what happens. um, I'm gonna give you an exclusive. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what I've got planned. Because again, some people it's just so hard for them to grasp this or think about it. So
Mhm.
we'll do all mind reading in the first half. And by the way, too, for anyone who hasn't seen my shows before, or maybe didn't hear the previous time I was on, um, I never bring anyone up who doesn't want to be on stage, who doesn't want to be involved. We it's all opt in. You don't have to come up if you do not want to. There's 410 other people who very likely want to. And again, if only 10% of those don't want to, again, the overwhelming majority, and so it's fine. So if people do want to come and just watch and don't want to be in the thick of it and participate, that's totally fine. That said, in the seance, what we're going to do is I am going to do a couple tests to see who in the room is most open. Some things like asking people, to be aware and see if they feel a ghostly presence, that kind of stuff. And out of those people, I'm going to bring up 13 and have a semicircle of chairs on stage with pendulums. And I have all 13 of those people using their pendulums on stage. For many of them, it'll be their first time. For many of them, they'll know. And I love the idea of just having a group of people on stage, all with these pendulums moving. I have one or two other tests planned. I've got some things to, like, I'll have a bag of questions that people can ask Orson Welles about with the pendulums. Because again, that's the other thing.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, you might have some insight to this because I've noticed the more and more I do like paranormal tours and even some seances, when I finally say, okay, ask your question, they freeze up. They've got nothing. It's like they have finally met a genie and they have no idea what their wishes are. So,
Well, yeah, you do kind of freeze up a little bit when you do a
yeah,
seances because it's
yeah,
like you got so many people on that table and your hands are touching each
hmm,
other's hands. So it's kind
yeah,
of like now you have all this kind of energy that's on your left and on your right.
hmm,
Now it's like, okay, you want to ask a question, but you kind of are hesitant because you don't know if it's going to affect the person on your left or on your right.
sure, sure, exactly. And that's the great thing with this. Out of the 13 people, they can all get their pendulums moving. We can go down the line, have each one use it to ask a question, either themselves or someone in the audience, and then we're gonna finish up with some old school spiritualism stuff, like hopefully some slate writing or something a little more theatrical to finish with, just so that there is some fun spookiness, and but also at the same time, I've left so many. It's funny because like when I write again the outline, because when you turn it into the tech people, they need a script, they need all that, and there's like just chunks of and hopefully something will happen here, and then
Hmm.
15 minutes later if something happened, and then alternate 15 minutes later if nothing has happened. Just those moments. It's not going to be quite that long, but if we got some signals here, we're going to go this direction. And I'm kind of like writing my own choose your own adventure story for
Okay.
it, which is really fun, of course, and it means that it's going to be, even if we do this uh, Orson Welles seance again next year, and then this is the other reason why in my head too. Uh, it will be different whenever you see it.
Hmm.
One of the things I do in my shows is I'll do psychometry readings where people will put personal items in an envelope or a bag. They'll be brought up on stage. I'll take the object out and I'll give a reading on it, and I'll try and give it back to the correct person in the room. And I'm fairly accurate. I'm like 90. I've gotten to the point where I'm like 90% accurate with it, in giving it back and the impressions I pick up off of it. But
Very
there's
nice.
another aspect to that, which is having some fun because again, there's 400 other people whose object it isn't. So how can I make this fun for them and interesting for them? So the weirder the objects I get, the better, whether they're, obviously I want them to be personal, but it's never the same way. I've now added a
You,
line in there.
you
Oh,
probably
just
know what's
wait, just
sitting in
wait.
my head right now.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I always say, for people who've seen me before, this is the part of the show that's always different. Right now is when the script ends, and I don't know what's going to happen. Let's see. So I have plenty of experience with that. This last summer, twice I was doing shows at the Maxwell Mansion up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
Mhm.
That was 40 people in their beautiful ballroom. So again, more intimate. And twice this summer, I got human remains. I got ashes.
Oh God.
And what's really weird is it was the third and fourth time I've got ashes. First time I got ashes were 15 years ago. And then the second time, it was a pet the second time. It was in like a little necklace vial that the person read. I've gotten underwear. Lori mentioned that. Tops and bottoms, male and female. Um, uh, but yeah, so it was weird how it was such a long time of nothing, and then within the last like 3 months, it was ashes again twice. So that was really really weird. But that's part of the fun of it for me is I never
Right.
know what I'm gonna get. I could get a rock they picked up off the ground last week, or I could get a family heirloom. Like it's always different, and that's part of the enjoyment of it for me.
What's the
Uh,
weirdest object you've gotten?
oh, um,
It's parental
th- th-
advisory, so you can say it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, I've gotten condoms. I've gotten sex toys. I had someone got false teeth. I've gotten false teeth. Recently, I had someone. It was a chapstick, but it was in a crocheted uh chapstick holder that looked. It was either a penis or the rocket ship from Austin Powers, and it was the former. Yeah. I've gotten pregnancy tests.
Wow.
What else? What else? What else?
And he got some
Um,
like, ew, I don't want to touch this.
uh, I mean, it was cleaned. It was in the cap thing, whatever. I mean, trust me, I played it up for laughs. But I've gotten really meaningful stuff too. One woman this last year, I was like a wallet. I was like, oh, this belonged to someone. And it was like snap shut. And I mentioned it. I felt like it had belonged to someone who had passed on or something. All the things I picked up about it, I give it to her. I ask her how accurate I am. She says 100%. That's not my dad's wallet. That's my dad's ID badge. He was a police officer.
Mhm.
That's his shield. I was like, oh, can I open it? I open up, and it was like Joe Friday, Dragnet, like one of those things. Like, and it was really cool because I talked about him being very kind to her and very much but very much very stern, a very like no nonsense kind of guy and stuff. Jim asks, "Hope you had gloves." I can't. I actually have to take my watch and ring off because psychometry is where you hold on to an object and you pick up the vibrations off of it. The idea is that objects we carry with us absorb a part of our personalities and maybe a part of our souls, and picking up on that is psychometry. So if it's something that belonged to someone who once passed away and you keep it as a memento of them, of course, there's going to be a lot of things with that. But I have to take my watch and ring off because I might get conflicting things because my watch and my ring don't carry the same stories that these objects do.
Now,
So,
how does
so
that
yeah.
go? How does that go differently now if you're doing a paranormal investigation? How does that go differently?
So with a paranormal investigation, so normally like 99% of all the paranormal. Well, first I'll talk about the tours, like the ones we're doing, and then I'll talk about the investigations.
Mm-hmm.
So the tours that we're doing at the
Hey,
Opera
bud.
House, almost always they're after one of my shows.
Okay.
Or something along those lines. Like I'll do a show, and then again, kind of like the seance for the stage show in the second half, we take a break, and then we do the tour or stuff like that. So with now my friend Lauren Purcell, she goes by Mystic Chick. She'd be a great guest to have on here too. Actually, she has a background in history, psychology, paranormal investigation. She's a psychic medium, so her and I have actually doubled up and teamed up on tours and seances together. Like we did a couple 13-person seances at the mansion we used to work at, and I would do like an hour show for everyone, just a mind reading show, and we'd take a break, and then she would reset the room with candles and everything. We'd come in, we'd have a seance.
Now, it's
So,
you on one side, her on the other side of the table.
so we had so it depends on the space. We had a
Okay.
table in the center that we all sat around. We've been around a room together for like an exploration or a tour. We kind of trade off. Like at the Woodstock Opera House, she'll be talking to everyone down on the ground floor, and then we'll hopefully, because they're under construction now, and we don't quite know where they'll be when when we have our stuff. They're on track to be done by the time we do our stuff. That's fine, but
Hmm.
there may be some areas, like every place we go to. Sometimes a certain place will be off limits, sometimes, and not off limits other times. We may be
Right.
able to go to the basement. We may be able to go to the attic. We may be able to go do neither and just do the ground floor and the theater. So yeah. So, but what's great is that she gets to do that, um, and I'll usually introduce her, and then she'll bring people through, and then when we get up to the theater, that's where I take over, let people explore in there, and then we gather around a table and do a spirit bottle, which is a pendulum in a bottle. And I finish almost all my seances and paranormal tours with that because, well, for a lot of reasons. Number one, you get enough people, you're going to get activity.
Hmm.
So the people aren't leaving like they saw nothing um, from that standpoint. Two, there's a lot of ways to interpret it. You can interpret it as our energy. There's ways to interpret it as the spirits in the building, and we encourage that conversation. We don't say it's definitely this, and only like we open it up to everyone and ask what they feel and what they think about. It's also really spooky because if once it starts like tapping out numbers on the inside, I've had like hardened skeptical dudes who were dragged there by their wives ask, "What number am I thinking of?" And it just goes ding, 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 and it says three, and they go, "I'm done." And they just walk away. And it's funny because when stuff like that happens, and and this is another aspect in a show, uh, I take as many theatrical, I don't even like to say artistic liberties. I try and take as many theatrical liberties as possible.
Right.
I will use storytelling. I will use contrast. I will use, um, character development for myself and even the audience members I bring up on stage in the moment. I I do have again. I People always ask me if there's a trick to what I do, and there's a trick to everything we do. There's a trick to coding a computer. There's a trick to all that. And I think what they
Hmm.
mean is it, is it a trick in the sense of like, is that person in on it? And, or,
Right.
did
Right.
you do research on us? And no, I never use any actors. I never do prior research to people. And I design my shows so that that's not even an option for the things I've done.
Hmm.
Uh, that said, if I pick up on something psychologically rather than, emotionally with someone, I will include that. I will incorporate that. Sometimes I'll just say stuff and I don't know where it's coming from, and it hits, and sometimes it doesn't.
Hmm.
I'll use again. I try to be as open about it being entertainment as possible, and with that, I think comes a huge responsibility, which
Hmm.
is why I don't do a show on the tours. We just do the tours. The
Right.
most is if I'm not doing a show beforehand, is I'll do like a couple quick mind reading things for the people who maybe haven't seen one of my shows before, or even for the people who have seen me and have like brought a friend. It's a good like icebreaker, getting to know you. Oh, think of a friend. I'll try and tell you the name you're thinking of, or think of an old pin code. I'll try and guess that. That gets them, gets everyone warmed up, and then I can introduce Lauren. But
Hmm.
that's the end of it. Um, I don't do any. Again, I think it's very important to not uh, to be honest, to say like, hey, this is different than a show. This is there are elements of this that we have no control over. We have a structure,
Hmm.
and again, and I almost always finish the spirit bottle with having it pick a tarot card for the group. So I'll mix a deck of oracle cards. We'll ask it for a number. The pendulum inside the bottle taps out a number. We count down in that deck, and I have a deck that has the meanings of the cards right at the bottom. So for people who know nothing about tarot or oracle decks or anything, they don't have to be like, "What's that mean?" I can say, "Look, it means this right here. Thank you." And that's a great way to like wrap it up. And if people have more questions on their way out, we're of course willing to answer them. And it's great too because if people do have like mediumistic questions for Lauren about like their loved ones or something,
Hmm.
they can exchange information and deal with that, after the tour. It's also a good way where like again, we've had a lot of people not sure about like again, it's a great way to dip people's toe in because they're like, I don't know what maybe I'm the crazy one, maybe there is a way to approach this, and coming on a tour like this is a very safe way to experience it, learn a little bit about it, and see how it goes. And I think stopping in the middle of all that to say, here, let me hold your object, or think of a number from 1 to 10, I think would that's not what I don't that's not what people want out of the tours. And I think I would be, I mean, it makes it about me rather than about us. And in the
Hmm.
show, the secret of the show is, yes, my name is on the advertising and everything, but the stage show is ultimately about the audience because they're always different. They're always going to think different things, and and it surprises me too. I do go off of my intuition genuinely, but I also do things in my shows to make the odds be more in my favor, or do something to make it seem more amazing than it actually is.
Hmm.
Um, so there's a lot of different approaches to that,
Right.
and what's the best to get everyone at a corporate event to laugh or gasp isn't what's conducive for a tour with 20 people who have opted in. So
Hmm.
I try to make sure that the tours stay very untheatrical, very again there's still very much a structure and a plan. That's the point of being guides, myself and Lauren being guides. We need to be guiding you somewhere. We can't just be going and go, all right, well that's it, bye, good night, hope you had fun. We want it to feel like it does go somewhere, and ending around the table on stage with the spirit bottle is kind of the perfect way to do that. And then the other thing too that's great is I make spirit bottles and we'll sell them after shows and after tours like this, and people have seen how they work so they can get them or learn to make one themselves. They're not hard to make at all.
Right.
But they can it gives them a new, and even people who are the most like, it's fascinating too. People who are really into like pendulums or dowsing rods. Not a lot of people have experience with spirit bottles. So it still has a novelty. It has novelty for the people who do lean more towards the electronic side. But at the same time, it has novelty for the people who aren't, because it's something they haven't seen much before, or have interacted with before.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there's some people, you hand them a pendulum and it's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then there's people who are like, yep, is this the right kind? Yep, I can use this kind. Oh, it's my left. Like they know they are locked in. Those are the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right.
And that's the other great thing too with a table is that you can change up with different people, uh, find different things. The other thing that's been really fun, if we have time with them, is to do two pendulum bottles on the same table, because you get different momentums, different patterns, and we can have people near one bottle but concentrating on the other, and the other bottle will go in the direction they're thinking of, and vice versa. So
Wow.
it's really fascinating stuff. And I love for
Heavy
people who
energy.
just, yeah, well, and I love that too because no, I very much soft sell the pendulums of saying, like, some people think it's just the micro movements in our bodies. I mean, for some people, do I think that? Yeah, but not enough for what I've seen and those of us who have experience with it and such.
Hmm.
But I love using the bottle because it's in a bottle on a table. Everyone's hands are on the table. You can feel no one's rocking the table, and it still responds to your thought. I love just watching the more like, nope, it is you moving it and all this stuff. It's not energy. I just love watching their worldview crumble and then giving them nothing to replace it with. There's
Like, what did I
again
just see?
that horror movie thing I was talking about before, like that. Wait a minute, that kind of that car ride home kind of thing.
Right, right.
And yeah, and again, the great thing too at the opera house is, you know, the space is so big so people can kind of take a few moments to explore on their own in different areas
Hmm.
of the theater or backstage, or down in the basement, no matter where we end up. And you don't always, a lot of these older homes, they're actually quite tight and quite, uh, especially when you get even just 13 to 20 people in there, it gets pretty crowded pretty fast.
Hmm.
When there's only 20 of you and 400 seats and two levels with a balcony, like you can spread out quite far. It's
Oh
a
yeah.
okay for that. And again, being in a building like that or a space like that at night on Halloween, in a space that's supposed to, you're normally in a space like this but with people, and now there's no people. It's that just adds an extra level to it, as
Oh,
well.
I bet.
Makes
I
it more
bet.
special.
So let's get into the mind reading stuff. Um,
Hmm.
Now, what measures does it go into doing the mind reading, and
Hmm.
um, kind of explain for those who are kind of wondering, like, well, how does he do the mind reading? Is there a certain procedure does he go through before he even
Sure.
starts it?
In many ways, yes. In many ways, yes. There's always uh, rapport building. There's of course a lot of psychology to what I do. Of course, but there's also, but my goal is to always take it that one step further than you'd think would be possible. And so the best way I describe it, with the elevator pitch for people who just meet me, oh, what do you do for a living? I just say, and my wife came up with this too, because people always ask, oh, what does your husband do? Well, she's you know works works in corporate and everything, and they want the elevator pitch. So we always say, oh, I'm a kind of mind reader. I do shows in theaters and corporate events and haunted locations. It's kind of like a magician, except instead of pulling a rabbit out of a hat, I'm pulling thoughts out of people's minds. And that usually convey, like, people get it. There's a lot of mentalists in TV shows like The Mentalist, and people get it.
Hmm.
I don't go by psychic just because I think we're all psychic. Like, genuinely, I think calling me a psychic would be like saying, "Oh yes, I'm a human." Like, but also a lot of people, when they hear psychic, they think medium. They think someone who can speak with spirits. And I do not do that.
Hmm.
And I don't want to misrepresent. Actually, Lauren Purcell, who's doing the tours with me on Halloween, she's a psychic medium. And it's funny when people hear she's a psychic, they go, "Oh, what am I thinking?" And then for me, the person who tells people what they're thinking,
Oh,
they go, "Oh, can you talk to my dead relative?" So we get the opposite happen, which is kind of fun.
right.
But so yeah, so I don't want to get into like the minutia of like every medium is a psychic, but not every psychic's a medium. Some people sense things, but really it is more of telepathy, sending and receiving thoughts, and just picking up on vibes. Like, there are
Hmm.
times I'm just looking at someone, and again, like I said before, even if I'm wrong, it makes sense why I'm getting what I'm getting,
Right.
if that makes sense in a lot of situations. And there's also a lot of, it's a two-way street. Like, I can't just sit there and, like, I'm not sitting around and hearing everyone's voice in my head all echoey. They need to be actively sending me the thought. Will I
Hmm.
still get like a vibe about some people every once in a while? Like, pick up someone's object or shake their hand and go, ooh, they've had a rough week.
Hmm.
Yes. Do I say that? No, because
Right.
if I'm right, that's awkward for them. If I'm wrong, it's
Right.
awkward. And also in situations that aren't the show, that aren't, where people know what they're signing up for, uh, like, you could say, "Are you okay?" And you still might go, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," even though I got the feeling you weren't fine. Like,
Yeah.
we need ways to actually test the outcomes and so forth. So finding out how to do that, and again, making it just not a boring, not that all science experiments are boring, but just like, you know, just a boring, we're going to do this and this and this kind of thing to actually take people on a journey. Uh,
Hmm.
we uh, uh, we can try some things with you and our live viewers and people who watch this later if you want.
You can try.
Give them a demo. Okay, all right. So here's how this will work. Here's how this will work. I will think about a memory from my past and I will project it out to all of you. Like I said, it's sending and receiving thoughts. So I'm going to send a thought out to everyone else. A couple quick things about this. Now, if we're on the, well, we're online right now. We're
Hmm.
talking through StreamYard and all that. But let's say we were talking on the phone, just for example, and the call drops. If we both try and call each other at the same time, no connection is made.
Hmm.
And if we both sit around waiting for the other person to pick up the phone and call, no connection is made.
Right.
You need one person to send the call and the other person to pick it up. And that's what's happening here. I am going to send a thought. We'll see how many people here pick it up. Now, sending actually is technically harder than receiving.
Hmm.
Uh, I know that, and that may sound like a way for me to blame other people when I'm wrong, but trust me, no one's going to blame them. They're going to blame me. So I'm just being open and honest about it with this. So, so again, sending it out across mass media. I've done this a lot, over the internet, over the phone, over radio, and even when they've played it back for a lot of people who are very intuitive, this does still work. So we'll do a couple things with all the listeners, everyone listening and watching. And if you're watching live, don't type your answers in the chat. Darren, don't say your answers out loud. If you're listening or watching with someone else, don't say your answers out loud and don't think about it too much. Go with whoever comes to you naturally. Intuition is knowing without knowing. So sit up straight if you can. Take a deep breath and exhale, or else you'll suffocate. Very good. All right, take another deep breath. And as you exhale, just allow a number from 1 to 10 to come into your mind. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that number. Okay? We'll do it again. Again, I'll keep these simple. Take another deep breath. And as you exhale, get in your mind a direction on a compass. Lock it in your mind. Don't change it. Remember that direction. All right, this last one's going to be the most complicated. I'm going to send two simple geometric shapes, one inside the other, like a square inside something else. Obviously, don't pick a square. I just said that. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, remember those two shapes. I'm curious to see how everyone did, so I'll tell you about the memory I was thinking of. Don't tell us your answers yet, Darren. Let's see how everyone else does.
Yep.
I was actually thinking about my first day of college, first day of school. You know, it's a very common memory for a lot of people, so I was hoping there'd be some overlap. And I couldn't find geometry class, so I asked someone where it was, and they said it was on the north side of the building. So if you got north, we'll count that as a hit. When I got to the classroom, there were 7 students there already. So if you got 7, we'll count that as a hit. And the teacher had drawn on the chalkboard a circle and a triangle. So if you got either of those, we'll count that as a hit. Now it's interesting how some people will get things reversed and everything. And of course, this is much more psychological at this point than it is psychic, but it gives you an idea of how this warms up and how some people are more open to this stuff than others. So I'm curious with you, Darren, how many did you get?
You got all of them.
You got all of them. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, great. Great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Did you get the triangle inside of the circle, or vice versa? You got triangle inside the circle. Perfect. That's exactly what I was going. Got everything right except direction. Perfect. Perfect. And you should notice the people watching live. They should get a lot of people who watch these kinds of shows. I notice almost everyone gets at least 1 or 2. Now, the worst case scenario, if you got none of these right, that's okay too. These are the types of people who really think about what they're going to think about. These are the types of people who, when I say think of 2 simple geometric shapes, they think of a a hexagon inside of a dodecahedron, like those types of people. Those types of people, ironically, though, are better at sending thoughts rather than receiving them and being open to everyone else's. So that's a perfect example to kind of show how all that how all that can go.
Wow.
So, so since you got all three before, now some people think, okay, that might be, playing the odds and everything else. So we're going to do this again. I'm going to write down three specific thoughts, and we'll do this specifically with you, Darren. Some other
Okay.
people might get some of the similar stuff, but I'm going to
Okay.
see if you can get another three in a row. So this time, I'm not going to think of a memory. I'm just going to imagine something this time. And I'll keep these up in frame, so again, people know that's the case. So on one of these, I'm going to write something down. That'll tell you the story that we're going to. I want you to imagine we're walking up to a an imaginary library, and we go in, and it's just one wall, but it's floor to ceiling, end to end, solid of books. And I'm going to write this down. Okay, I'm going to put this behind the others so you can't see it, but I can't change my mind. I'm going to imagine I reach out and grab a hardcover book off the shelf, and you tell me, Darren, what color is this hardcover book?
Say it out loud.
hmm
Brown.
There was a lag. What was it?
Uh, brown.
Light brown, dark brown,
Dark brown.
dark brown. Like the color
Oh,
of like a log or like.
yep. Like a log.
Okay, okay, perfect, perfect. Okay. Didn't want to put words in your mouth, just wanted to clarify. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so you open up the book, and now I'm going to write down a page number. Uh okay, I got a page number. Let me write this down. Again, I won't let you see it. Uh I'll put it behind the other so you can't see it. And again, I can't change my mind. Uh Flip through, and I'm going to imagine I settle on a two-digit page number. Both digits are different. Okay. Two-digit page number, both digits are different. What's the page number?
75.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And now you're looking at page 75, and I'm going to imagine my eyes go up and down the page. Let me settle on something on the page here. I'll go with this. Actually, I'm going to cross that out. I'm going to go with this because I think we're more likely to do this. Okay. Okay. And again, same thing. I'll put it behind the other so you can't see it, but I can't change my mind. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, quick as you can, Darren, say out loud a verb, an action, something you could do right now.
Blink.
Was that really your first choice?
No.
What was your first choice? What was your very first choice?
Run.
Okay. Still not spot on, but this was kind of my fault because I didn't stick with my first choice either. I actually crossed out run and then did jump. So we both changed our mind. But this is the perfect example. If we hadn't changed our minds, we would have gotten that spot on. You said the page number was 75, and that you did get spot on. 75. And then this was the only one I was a little unsure about because I didn't want to talk you into it because I wrote Forest Brown.
Okay.
That's why I was asking about the log. But yeah, so we'll count that. We'll count run 75, Forest Brown. That was perfect. Great job. Um, so here, let's try. I'm curious if anyone else got those as well. Let me try one more specifically with you though, Darren.
Okay.
Now that we're fully warmed up and you're
Yep.
really good at this. So I'm gonna write down something here. I'm gonna draw a heart, and I want you to imagine. That was my last three cards. So I just grabbed a notepad here. I want you to imagine uh, that I'm gonna write something else at the top here. I want you to imagine you're quite young, okay? And I want you to imagine you're in front of a tree.
Okay.
And I want this to be around the time you can remember having your first crush, okay?
Okay.
Can you do that for me?
Okay.
Okay. Just gonna darken this in here real quick. Can you now? This first crush can be a celebrity. It can be someone you knew. But you have to know their first and last name. That's the only rule. Okay. Or first and last initial. I don't want to get too therapy personal here on the internet for all.
Okay.
So just the first and last initial. Okay.
You want
Can
the
you do
first and
that?
last? Okay.
Okay. By the way, at the time, like, just want to clarify because people change their names and stuff. Just to be clear, your name at the time was Darren Buss.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I want you to imagine that you carve these initials, your initials and the initials of this person into the tree for me. Okay.
Okay.
So think of both initials. Don't react. Look right at your camera, not at the screen, but look right at your camera, and recite the alphabet for me, A to Z.
A B C D E F G H I J K L M N O P Q R S T U V W X Y Z.
All right, keep looking at the camera. I'm going to recite the alphabet to give myself a bit of an edge. I'll recite it backwards. Z Y X W V U T S R Q P O N M L K J I H G F E D C B A.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure if you were fully thinking of the letters. I think you might have been like, "Wow, he can actually do this." Let me try this one more time. Uh, Z Y X W V U T S R Q P O N M L K J I H G F E D C B A. Okay,
Okay.
two things. First off, both these initials are different. Yes,
Yes.
and they are both consonants. Correct.
No.
Hmm. Okay.
One's a
Could you
vowel.
just say one is a vowel? Okay, don't tell me which it is. Don't tell me it's the first initial or the second one. Could you recite just the vowels for me? Again, I'm gonna have to give myself a little bit of an edge. Recite just the vowels for me.
A E I O U.
And sometimes why?
They're
Just
important names.
no. And
I mean,
sometimes why? No. And sometimes A
oh,
E I
why?
O U and sometimes why. That's
Oh,
okay.
okay.
That's okay. I don't think it's why because if it was, you would have said it. See, that's where the psychology comes in. But here's where all that goes by. Like, I stack it all up and then I just got to go with like my intuitive guess here. I'm gonna write down these two. Please don't hate me. I'm hoping worst case scenario I got the order wrong. I'll put the pencil down.
Okay.
Uh, Again, I'll leave this in frame. You can tell us now what was this person's initials.
E G.
Uh, Again, there was a bit of a lag. E what?
E G.
E and G. All right. I almost did GE, but I'm really glad I did EG right there. So there you are.
So
It's
you son of a bitch.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it
And
is
it's even
a
weirder in person.
it is it is a celebrity.
Okay, all right.
You might know this one. Her
Okay.
name is Erin Gray.
I believe, yeah, that sounds familiar. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could picture her, but the name sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, she used to be. Well, she was in Jason Goes to Hell,
Ah, yes, that's why it sounds familiar. Yes.
and I
Um,
always watched Buck Rogers.
nice, nice. Uh,
So yeah,
yes.
that was my.
Speaking of which, quick horror talk for a moment. Um, I, Nothing against, like, I'm a big fan of the Friday the 13th franchises. Everyone who complains about like, oh, this one's the worst one, this one's the worst one, and but they all have something great in them. And that tent kill and Jason Goes to Hell is amazing. And they have cut it out of HBO Max. I am so mad because I can't find the Blu-ray or DVD anywhere. So
Well, you should
because I
be able to
have all
find
the
it on
others, I have
Netflix.
all the
Maybe
others on Blu-ray. Is it back on Netflix?
I think it's on Netflix. I could be wrong.
Okay,
It
because
might
I've
even
seen
be
it
on
on
Tubi.
Netflix.
Tubi might be
Maybe
having it.
Tubi. But yeah, but I need to find it eventually because, like, I'll admit, like, I usually have stopped watching after that scene, and then move on to another one. But man, That have you seen the documentary Crystal Lake Memories, where they go into the making of all the movies?
No, I have not
Um,
actually.
oh, it used to be on Shudder. It's like a 4 or 5 hour documentary. They start with the first one, go all the way up through the remake. Not the remake, the reboot, and they show like the behind the scenes of that tent kill, and oh my god, like just incredible,
Well,
incredible.
Sylvain,
I
like
was
you're
way
saying
too
about
young
Sylvain,
when I
he's
saw
really
that.
good.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was way too young to see that. Have I told you my story of freaking out Ari Lehman? I am
No.
technically I am technically scarier than Jason Voorhees. This is my big claim to fame for horror. Uh, so um, in person, I can get a little more in depth, but beyond just the initials and such. Over Zoom, I have to use different techniques, or over virtually and stuff. That said, years ago, just on a whim, my friend and I ran into Ari Lehman, and my friend knew him from working some conventions with him.
Okay.
And he was just saying Ari, and I'm like, why does he look familiar? Why? Why? And it was after a show, so I was tired. I couldn't quite place it. And he comes over, he goes, "First Jason." I was like, "The kid in the lake." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You introduce me right freaking now." So we go over, he introduces me. "What do you do?" "I'm a mind reader." "No shit, read my mind right now." So I had him think of same thing. Had him think of his first crush, maybe his first kiss. I can't remember. And when I got it, he just goes, "Holy crap, dude, you're scary. You scared me." And I just said immediately, "Can I please quote you on that? Can I please say I'm the guy that scared Jason Voorhees?" He's like, "Hell yeah, go ahead." It's like, yes, yes.
Oh, now I gotta go meet Kane Hodder.
Yeah, yeah. It was, I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, part of me is like, do I want to like go through and like try and meet some of the others, like collect them like Pokemon? Like, who's the others that I can read the mind of? Um, but yeah, between him and uh, reading Brooke Burke's palm on TV, like those are like the two like life highlights
Oh, I
for me.
bet.
But yeah, and he's a super cool guy. He has a band called First Jason, and they were in town doing a show, and we just ran into each other at a diner and in Chicago, like just on a whim. Wasn't going to a convention, didn't plan on it, didn't anything. It just happened, and yeah, it was pretty awesome. And yeah, and Friday the 13th coming up this week. So there we have another
Yeah,
Friday the 13th connection, synchronicity
absolutely.
happening there.
It's not too often anymore. It just seems like it's like leap years in a way. That it's
Yeah,
like
we have
doesn't
one
have.
now. We had one in October last year, one now, one in December coming up. Um, I
What's
haven't
more
checked for
wicked though?
Halloween or Friday the 13th.
Well, I mean, what's more wicked? October the 13th or December the 13th?
Oh, I don't think either are particularly wicked. I don't even think Friday the 13th are particularly wicked. As far as I can tell from my research, there's a lot of theories for it, between like the Last Supper, 13 people for dinner with the Last Supper,
Oh,
one of them died, all that stuff. That was on a Friday, Good Friday, all that stuff. Um, but in a lot of cultures, it was really confusing when I was doing my research, because 13 was considered a lucky number for a long time, and
hmm,
Fridays were considered the lucky number.
yeah.
But calling them lucky numbers and then both converging on a Friday and a 13th apparently jinxed it, thus making it an unlucky number. So I kind of like that Friday the 13th were so lucky they became unlucky. It just wrapped back around on itself like a, Mobius strip.
Right,
Um,
right.
so to give you to just to let everyone know, because I look out for these types of things, and you and listeners and everyone, if they don't know what they should. Uh, Halloween is on a Friday next year. Cool. Back on a weekend, all that.
Hmm.
The year after that, 2026. Harry Houdini died on Halloween night, 1926. It'll be the
Oh,
100-year anniversary of Houdini's death. Halloween will be on a Saturday, and it will be daylight savings time. We'll have an extra hour of Halloween.
Ooh,
So, yeah, I have evil plans.
that's gonna be interesting.
I can't wait. Um, I cannot wait because yeah, Houdini's a bit of a conflicted figure for me. Of course, he wasn't the most ethical guy, and we'll leave it at that. If anyone wants to read like Witch of Lime Street or any of that stuff, it's
Mhm.
like and again, a lot of magicians have put him up on this pillar of truth and everything. He's like, no, he wasn't on a pillar of truth. He was on a pillar of Houdini. But that said, his cultural significance is undoubtable. He was the first superhero, and to this day, kind of the first real life superhero, first and only real life superhero, for superstar. Here's a fun fact. You know how guys will paint their chests at like sports games and
Mhm.
stuff? Houdini technically invented that. He hired 7 bald men in every city he would go to one would paint an H, one would paint an O, and they'd all stand in a row, take off their hats and lean forward, and it would spell Houdini. So he was a trendsetter in more ways than one. In more ways than one.
That's
So yeah, so
interesting.
I'm fascinated with that aspect, but as far as the person, human being, yeah, it's a you know, like many people in history, it's a bit messy.
I'd say. I'd say.
Yeah,
So you want to talk about your event that you got coming up because we're past 9 o'clock here, and
yeah.
for
So
those of you who want to know what your event's going on and where it takes
yeah.
place and how to get to it.
JoeDiamondLive.com/Halloween if you're interested in the show, tour, or both. October 25th, we're doing the stage show. Uh, First half mind reading, second half after intermission, Orson Welles seance, and then VIP flashlight tour after that. That's on Friday, October 25th. On October 31st, we're doing tours, so not the stage show, just the tours. There's one at 6 and I think one at like 7:30 or 8. And if those sell out, we'll likely add a third one. But I don't know if we'll be able to because again, they're under construction. So I don't even know if we'll be able to go much later than that on a weeknight, even with it being Halloween. And they sold out like super quick last year. The tickets went on sale later this year because again, they're under construction and such. But let me tell you, like again, being in that place by flashlight on Halloween night. There's nothing. I've been in a lot of really cool places on Halloween night by flashlight, and this place is something special. Like it's just absolutely incredible. And yeah, so that's the plan for that. Speaking of Friday the 13th, tickets aren't on sale for this yet, but oh by the way, those are in Woodstock, Illinois. It's about 90 minutes from both Milwaukee and Chicago. In fact, you can take the train from downtown Chicago straight to Milwaukee and be a block from that theater. So if anyone does want to travel in for the show, it's really easy to get to. Um, yeah, we had people from all over the country, and two people from Canada, and two people from France last year, which was pretty cool.
Very
Because
nice.
they have a big Groundhog Day festival each year, so they came for Groundhog Day. Were bummed they couldn't see my show in February, so followed up, saw that the Halloween one was coming, so they came back for Halloween. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, so that's really awesome. Friday the 13th in December, I will be back at the Maxwell Mansion in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, doing a show there. It'll be for 40 people again in the ballroom and all that. Those tickets aren't going to go on sale until after Halloween, but the best way to find out about all that is again JoeDiamondLive.com. Subscribe to the mailing list at Joe Diamond Live on Instagram, Facebook. I'm becoming more active on TikTok. I'm more active on Threads and YouTube than TikTok. I'll be totally honest, but yeah, I'm very easy to get a hold of, with the exception of Facebook Messenger. Just for some reason, I have hundreds of unread messages that just get forwarded to things deep. So email me, joe at joediamondlive.com, especially if we're not already friends. I'm at the 5,000 friend limit. It's a pain. So just email me, joe at joediamondlive.com, or shoot me a message on Instagram. If you have any questions about anything we talked about tonight or any of the upcoming events, feel free to reach out. And I hope to see everyone there. Best
Yeah,
Halloween ever.
absolutely. And you were talking about the pendulum in the bottle and stuff like that.
Hmm.
How can I get one through you?
Uh, so they're next to impossible to ship. That's the only downside because they are glass
Oh,
bottles.
yeah, shatter. Yeah.
That said, um, so I only really have like sold them like in person because
Okay.
again, shipping them and everything. I'm super busy and I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to deal with oh this, and I make them one of a kind by hand each time too.
Yeah.
That said, if you uh, if we do have a chance to overlap in person, of course I can hook you up. That said, with I'll put it to you this way. Let's talk after we're done recording, just you and I. We'll talk. We'll
All
figure
right.
we'll figure something out.
Sounds
But I
good.
will have those. I will have a few available at Halloween and such for anyone else who might be interested. Also, if you type my name into YouTube and type in "Trap a Spirit in a Bottle" on top of it or something, I actually demonstrate it for the Modern Rogue YouTube channel. We do a full breakdown of what goes into it, and they're super skeptical. And the fact that they were freaking out was really fun. But of course, they also own property on a former cult compound in Austin, Texas. So that place was very active. So
I
yeah.
bet.
So you can look it up. I talk about that if you're interested in making your own and stuff. But if you want to get one from me, I'll have some at the shows as well.
Hey, Carmen. Well, we're just ending the show here, Carmen, but you can catch us on replay. Thank you, Joe, for being a
Thank you
guest on
so
here
much.
tonight. Definitely have to
Thank
have you
you.
come
Thank
back
you,
again
Darren.
and let
Yes,
us
please,
know
anytime. I love
how.
this. I always love chatting with you.
And definitely have to see how that the Halloween shaped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so if you guys don't know, we are on BB3 TV for Facebook, Paranormal Brew on YouTube, and the MJS Paranormal on YouTube as well. For some reason, I cannot get the Paranormal Brew for Facebook to work for me. Hey, Kathy. And uh, hopefully I can get that fixed. But if she wants me to stick with the YouTube, then that's what I'll do. So,
Mhm.
other than that, thank you all for joining us tonight for this awesome show. Joe, it's always a great time to have you
Thank you.
on. And we'll definitely reach out and do another show.
Yeah.
So, and
Love
this
to.
time, audience, you got to participate.
We'll do more. They said they were getting some stuff, so yeah, we'll do more next time. I got planned. I got
That's good.
plans.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being in the chat tonight. Greatly appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, you guys what makes the show possible for us to do this, and without you, we would not have a show. So, with that, you all have a great weekend, and I will see you in 2 weeks. So long, everybody.